Hey, Puentistas. Welcome back. I'm here to talk a little bit about our first essay, the conspiracy theory essay. Now, I've gotten a lot of feedback from students that they're a little unsure about how to proceed or what it's going to look like, and that's totally fine. I'm super glad that you guys are asking me questions. Remember, my job is to help you do well on the assignments. So I want you to keep on asking me stuff. I don't care if you think the question is dumb or irrelevant. Look, put all that stuff to the side here. My number one goal is to give you guys the skills that you need to pass this class and be successful in your other classes. And if there are things on my end that I'm doing that aren't looking clear, I totally want to hear from it, hear from you about it. That's super, super important to me. Anyway, a lot of you know that we do have a sentence outline and a works cited page due today. I'm making that deadline flexible just because I know there are questions that people still have about it. And I'd rather have people take a little bit more time, maybe even throw me something rough and say, hey, this is what I got so far. What should I do? Now, as far as the structure goes, I've put a couple of resources online. And if you took 1A with me last year, you will notice these. They should be familiar to you. First is an example outline for the research essay. And this one right here is all about decriminalizing illegal drugs. It's not really about, conspiracy theory at all, although there are lots of conspiracy theories around controlled substances, as you might imagine. Um, if you want to focus on one of those, that's fine. But what's more important for us to think about now is just how the outline should work. Now, here we have a thesis statement that's talking about how decriminalizing drugs would be better for America. That's not what your thesis is going to look like. Yours will be something more like, a popular conspiracy theory today is that 5G cell phone networks cause COVID, believe it or not. Or a popular conspiracy theory today is that the election was stolen and that there was widespread voter fraud. Now, the second part of that thesis is going to have to be something like, however, there is no significant evidence that this is true. Something like that. And then for your body paragraphs, you're just going to have a piece of information from one of your sources that helps people believe that. Now, my strategy is find those nuggets from your research sources and put like a line of them in. Even if it's a direct quote, I'm totally cool with it. But what you're doing is you're mapping out where you're going to go before you actually start writing it. Because if you're researching and writing at the same time, um, that's a great episode for my. That's a great episode. That's a great recipe for migraine. So anyway, this is on here. And if we go back one, we'll go back to modules, and it puts me at week one for some reason. I don't want to see that. And I've even given you an outline format worksheet. And I, at least for me, one of my real annoyances with making outlines, it's that it's so hard to get that Microsoft Word outline format to work where you hit tab and blah blah blah. And it was always problematic to me. Now, maybe that's just some deficiency on my end. I'm more than willing to entertain that notion. But what I think is more important is that we just have a roadmap. We've got like a set of directions for where we're going to travel before we get on that rough draft writing road, if that makes sense. So, what I suggest you do is you download this. That's alternative formats. Or if you just click on this, you should be able to download it. Go ahead and knock out all the lines, and then write your thesis, write your topic sentences, etc. And like I said before, it's going to be about your supporting evidence in that middle there. I would have you put in that supporting evidence before you even worry about the topic sentence. once you have the supporting evidence, it's a lot easier to kind of generalize the big point there. And if you notice, I've got quite a few letters for body paragraphs here. Now, if you want to, in your first body paragraph, you can talk about the specific article or website that you found that has this conspiracy theory and lay out, the major points of it. And if you even want to talk about, say, in the introduction of why this conspiracy theory, uh, caught your attention, maybe you've heard it a lot. Maybe you've got good friends or family members that believe in them. I know I certainly do. Um, and it's a challenging thing to sometimes have to work with or to be around. Um, and that's totally fine. Um, if you want to start with that kind of personal touch, that's fine. But do that in a sentence. Remember, you're not building the intro right now. You're not building the body paragraphs right now. You're just saying, hey, here's the big point. And since we're looking at about 4 pages for this essay, if you think basically 2 paragraphs per page, you're looking at roughly an 8-paragraph essay, maybe 7. So that means if you take away the intro and the conclusion and maybe 1 body paragraph explaining that conspiracy source that you have, you might want to look at some place like InfoWars, for example, or anything. You can just find it anywhere. Um, that's fine. That leaves you with 8 minus 3, about 5 body paragraphs worth of support. Now, a lot of you have been asking, well, how do I find this support? What you will need to do, remember, is go through our Chaffey College databases. Now, I know a lot of you just want to hit Google because Google's there. You don't have to go to college, use Google. And there's a lot of good stuff you can find on Google. But part of being ready for the extra work that you need to do in college and when you transfer is being able to know how to use databases. And I know they're not as user-friendly. That's what makes them a valuable skill because they aren't as intuitive. I mean, the bright side of using our databases is that you're getting a higher quality of information. If you remember from 1A, the librarian talked about how anything that's appearing on these databases has been peer reviewed. In other words, it's been reviewed by peers in that same industry, whether it be journalism or science or epidemiology, whatever that is. So there's a whole team of people saying, okay, yeah, this checks out. This looks valid. Now, if you go to the Chaffey College Library website, if you're having trouble just getting to that, I would go back to our homepage. Bop, bop, bop. And you probably know that okay, here we go. Current students. No, prospective student, no, current students. Hit that, it'll take you here. Go to the articles and database list. You're gonna have to sign in. I already signed in here. You'll notice we've got a ton of databases. Now, you might look at this and say, wow, forget it. I've got to go through all of these. No. I mean, a lot of these are very, very discipline based. It may not be relevant. Now, what you can do is you could also list them by subject. Now, if you're doing something about, say, medicine, the human body, the COVID virus, looking at our nursing and health sciences set would be helpful. And there are others as well. But the ones that I've found the most helpful include Academic Search Complete, but even more so, Proquest. Now, the way you find this one, you can see I already did some searches here. Hello, go back in. All right, so here I am at the big fat list. This one, it's all the way down on, where was it? I found it earlier. See, even I need to take this down, down, down. Oh, under N. N for newspapers, U.S. major dailies. Now, these major newspapers have the best editing and peer reviewing teams. So if you want to find information about a certain conspiracy theory, just go ahead and put it in there. If you notice, I put election conspiracy here. I think you're going to want full text. Then you hit search. You've got a ton of articles here, right? And you can just start by reading them. I sometimes just take a look to see if it looks like something I'm going to use. Oh, this is about a theorist, but I want to find something that's all about the conspiracy theory itself. Notice this says it's a letter. It's probably a letter to the editor. Now, here's an election conspiracy theories and falsehoods one. Some of you might know Rudy Giuliani by name. He's a lawyer who's working for former President Trump. Now, as soon as this opens up, look, debunked claims about poll workers, conspiracy theories about a software company. Notice you got the full text right here. Now, you can email it to yourself. You can save it to PDF. You've got lots of options. Now, when you're first just searching, I would just collect about 10 or 20 sources, 10 or 20, about 200 or 300 sources. Let's say, I think you should always do a quick search for maybe double the amount of sources that you need, just in case some get to be real dud. Sometimes people, when they get one source, they're like, okay, I'm going to read this super, super carefully. Here I go, here I go. But that slows you down. It's kind of like, remember when we used to go out and shop in stores for stuff? Like maybe you went out clothes shopping. That was a thing. Like, if you want to, buy a new outfit or something like that, you usually don't go like, oh, okay, I found this one thing I kind of like. I'm going to go try it on. What you do instead, maybe say, okay, I like this one. Let me get a couple different sizes, maybe a couple different colors, maybe a couple different styles. If I'm going to go into that room, I'm going to have more choices than I'm probably going to walk out the door with that I'm actually going to use. And doing research is kind of the same way. But anyway, Proquest, the newspapers, is going to be very, very helpful. Now, you can also definitely use, I didn't have a whole lot of luck with CQ researcher using the word conspiracy theory, but you could put in something like, say, let's go to advanced search, election fraud, with a AU, not a D. Oy vey. Election security, Biden presidency. Now look, it does mention massive fraud here, so maybe that's worth our looks. Marijuana legalization. Wow, we got a lot of false positives here. But anyway, CQ Researcher is another really important research source. And here we have some results here. Notice we've got some nice graphs. And you'll notice here that we have all kinds of information. And this is basically about, oh boy, these guys. So you might have to do a little hunting here. And remember, we talked a little bit about how headings are so important here. But again, maybe you just want to save this one real fast. And you can do that by emailing it to yourself. All right, quickly running out of time. I'll put the rest in the next video.